welcome to Spectacle on Television Nigeria. I am your host, Daniel Atai. Initially, the African Continental Free Trade Agreement is a trade agreement between 27 African Union member states. It was signed in Kigali, Rwanda, on the 21st of March 2018. But as of July 2019, we reported to you that 54 states have signed the agreement, with Nigeria and South Africa being the last to sign the pact in Niamey, the capital of Niger Republic. Your socio-political and economic program on Television Nigerian shall be looking into how Nigeria would reconcile its border closure with the African Continental Free Trade Area. I am your host, Daniel Atai, and welcome to Spectacle. Stay tuned. Shortly after this time out, I'll introduce my guest to you.
This is Television Nigerian, a broadcast network committed to serving you the very best in online and offline television programming. Situated in the serene environment of Gusape, Abuja FCT, TVN, as it is fondly called, caters to a wide variety of audience via carefully orchestrated mind-blowing programs in the areas of fashion, business, politics, entertainment, religion, movies, food and health, culture and lifestyle, events around the globe, sports and foreign news. Whatever your inclination, we've got you completely covered with programs like Issues of the Moment, The Patriot, Daybreak Nigeria, Mata Africa, TVN Business Time, Healthy Living, From the Cradle, Stay Inspired, Entertainment Gist, Movie Hour, Hits Paradise, among others. All designed to keep you thoroughly informed, entertained, at the edge of your seats and yearning for more. A tour around our domain will reveal a highly dedicated staff force and a state-of-the-art facility and equipment for high-definition quality broadcast, making our station your #1 choice in advertising your business and propagating your ideas. We are currently on Nigecomsat doing our test transmission for takeoff in the nearest future. Television Nigerian is located in Nigeria at Television Nigerian House, Gusape Hilltop Mansion, beside Gusape White House, Gusape Abuja FCT, and in the United Kingdom at 45 Ancient House, 48 Aerodrome Road, Beaufort Park, Colindale, London. For inquiries, Television Nigerian, broadcast beyond boundaries.
Welcome back. With me in the studio of TVN is an African industrialist, the CEO of Different Approach Development Nigeria Limited and Sagaso Worldwide Ghana Limited, in the person of Reginald Nabwe.
Yes, sir.
You are most welcome.
Thank you. Nice to meet you, sir.
Now, before I go to Reginald, I want us to look at the objective of the AFCFTA, that is the African Free Trade Continental Area. The key objective of the AFTA is to boost intra-African trade through progressive elimination of tariffs and non-tariff barriers to trading goods and liberalization of trade in services. The agreement will also involve cooperation on investment, intellectual property rights, and competition policy. Now, Reginald, of recent, the office of the NSA, through the Nigerian Customs Services, the military, the Nigerian police force, and some other security operatives to close down 4 borders in Nigeria. And how do you reconcile this with the African free trade, continental free trade area?
Thank you very much. First of all, we have to actually go back to revisit the reason why the reason that the president gave why our borders were shut down.
Okay.
First of all, you realize that especially the Seme border, the Benin border,
Benin Republic.
Yes, Benin Republic border. I've been privileged to have gone through those places. I've actually been privileged to have traveled through most of our borders. And you see that there is a lot of activities that go on in these borders. But most of these activities are illicit.
Okay.
You have a situation where you have goods being brought into Nigeria through the wrong means, through smuggling. The smuggling activities actually that happens in our borders are much more than the real activities, than the illicit trades that occur through our borders.
No. The illicit is
The
more
illicit, yes,
than
the illicit, that's what I'm saying. The illicit trade, the smuggling activities is much more than the illicit trades that happen through our borders.
All right.
You see that the number of cars that come in through our borders that are smuggled in are more than the cars that Nigeria itself have duties paid on. And that's the reason why you see that customs in recent times have begun to clamp down on cars that don't have duty paid.
Yeah.
Now, but if you look at it, you also realize that, like we have said, the African Continental Free Trade Area is supposed to be a game changer for any nation that is adhering to local content. Now, you remember, like I'm saying, the president closed down our borders to encourage us to actually look inward and begin to consume our own goods, especially the issue of the rice. You see, the rice was actually the basic reason why the president said that our borders have to close. Why? Because we still had a situation where Benin Republic, they were actually some of the nation that imported more rice. They imported more rice into Africa, not to service Benin as a nation, but to be moved into Nigeria. I get me, because of our consumption. But you see, we need to actually go back to address the real problems that are responsible for why we have such situation of illicit trade through our borders. Number one, you realize that our security personnel, if you pass through the borders, you realize our security personnel are actually the ones who are responsible for the entrance of goods that ought not to have come in without passing through normal checks. I get me, and through normal duty payments. Now, because you see, our custom officers are the ones that run the smuggling operations. Our police, if you pass through the borders, you can see like maybe from Nigerian border to coming into the country, coming into Lagos, you might meet maybe 2,000 checkpoints. But at each check, what they are interested in is not in actually finding out if the goods that had come into Nigeria had met this required import standards, but to get their own kickbacks. I get me, yeah, kickbacks. So if you look at it,
what do you mean kickbacks?
Bribes is the normal thing. The drivers, you see drivers who are bringing in goods that are banned goods that are not supposed to be crossing our borders without going through normal custom checks. But they bring them in, and these guys will settle the custom officers, the police, the NDLEA, and all the numerous security personnel and apparatus that are in our borders. And because of that, you see that the problem is not about the incoming of illicit goods. The problem is our ability to hold ourselves accountable. We are not the only countries that have borders. We are not the only countries that are faced with situations as we have at our borders. But you see, because of the innate desire for quick money by Nigerians, the average Nigerian thinks that it is better to make money than to have a good name. No. And that is as a result of poverty. Poverty which comes as a result of joblessness, which also brings us back again. I want to come back to why AFTA is our game changer. You see, for me, AFTA represent actually.
No. When you said AFTA is our game changer, and then the border within the African other African, West African, for instance, that
Yes.
bordering Nigeria is closed.
Yes.
Is it closed absolutely against the policy and the objective of AFTA?
No, but you see, if you look at it, I'm of the opinion that the president's desire in closing our border is a good thing. But you see, it does not solve our problem, because you cannot close our borders to trade. You can only say that we must find ways to make sure that we are trading right. We are making sure that what is coming into our borders are actually meeting our duties, are meeting our import relationships. Are you getting me? Now, but if you look at it, AFTA represents change for all African nations that are willing to pursue local content. You must remember that the reason why Africa has the problem that we have, the reason why we are poor, is because we buy all things, we buy everything from outside Africa. We actually have come to believe that foreign goods is actually the way of life, which is not so. I believe very strongly that our made in Nigerian goods might not meet the same standards with all the other country foreign goods that come in. And the reason is because these people have been manufacturing for a very long time.
Okay.
It is research and development. You must remember that there was a time when they used to say Taiwan products was synonymous with low quality. But today that is not the case. He who continues to make will always continue to improve.
Improve, yes.
Chinese products were synonymous with low quality in the recent past. But today, standard is increasing, because as long as you are producing, you will definitely increase your products. You increase the standard of your products. Because at each point in time, every product that comes out, every product that comes out after the previous one comes with improvements.
Okay, you made the point that Nigeria, the border closure will not solve our problem outrightly, but the government needs to redefine it.
Yes.
That it is not closed against trade,
Yes.
Trade and investment.
Yes.
But if it is not closed against trade and investment, would they think that those custom, police, and what have you, the military checkpoint, will allow trade to flow in through the land borders?
No, but if you look at it, as we still speak, I am very sure that smuggling is still going on.
It will continue like
Yes,
this.
but it is tight now because of the closure of the border. So you see, we need to address the real problem. The real problem is ourselves. We are the saboteurs of our nation.
Okay.
We have been sabotaging the effort of our nation
Okay.
to the point where the president had to make sure now that, okay, let's kukuma close the border.
Okay.
Are you getting me? Now, I was reading today, the Ghanaian delegation came, and they're saying it's affecting the trade between
Yes.
Nigeria and Ghana.
The
It's
foreign
affecting,
minister
yes.
of, Ghana, the
What-
lady.
It was here.
Yes.
No, but okay, look at it.
That they want to, that Nigeria closed the border against them.
Yes.
And Nigerian goods is coming to Ghana.
That's right.
And they too want to bring their goods to
Nigeria.
based on the pact
Yeah,
they have
yes,
signed.
based on trade agreements.
Yeah, so
But you see,
what do you think should be done now?
we need to remember that Nigerians actually need to be our mentality need to be re-engineered. We need to actually reorient our people. There is need for a campaign of change of attitude towards consumption of goods. Foreign goods is not synonymous to quality. Let me say this to you. Every foreign good that is brought into this country is actually export of jobs. Nigerians need to tie the prosperity of Nigeria and the poverty of Nigeria to the import of goods. Now, but you see, I come back. We are talking about AFTA. Some people have said, okay, if that is the case, if that is what you're saying, then why are we subscribing to AFTA? AFTA presents Africa with an opportunity to actually develop itself. Because Africa has been a consumer continent.
Yes.
Who continues to import goods from distant countries.
Especially Nigeria. Okay, now that you'll still continue on that point.
Yes.
Now that we have been consuming for over
40 years now.
over 40 years,
Yes.
4 decades,
Yes.
if not since our independence, we have been consuming. Although partly we produced during the military days, just partly, and after that, we have been consuming and we are dependent. Do you think that 4 years of President Buhari's administration, let me say 8 years, will be a kind of a succor now, or have put in place incentive enough for us not to import again?
I believe that 8 years is too long for any nation to transform itself, and I explain. I will reference Germany and Hitler, though I do not subscribe to Hitler's ideology.
Okay.
But Hitler, in 4 years, was able to transform Germany from unemployment to full employment. And what they did was to look inward. Hitler shut the borders of Germany and made sure they manufactured everything they consumed. In fact, nothing was coming in and nothing was going out. Now, local content forced Germany into development. Are you getting me? Now, that happened in these 4 years. Let me say this to you. I believe very strongly that it is very easy for Nigeria to take advantage of AFTA, because if you look at it, a businessman, a manufacturer, if you are a manufacturer of good, whatever your good is, the only thing you always look for is the market. As long as there are people, the consumers, you will always have opportunity for sales. So, and if you look at it, Nigeria has 200 and something million people. Yes, we have one of the largest markets in Africa. Yes, but our market is not larger than the African market. And the African Continental Free Trade Area presents us with a larger market than our own market. We will only have problem if we are the ones that are buying the consumables. If we become the ones who are exporting the consumables, the aftermarket is a greater market than the Nigerian market. So we should actually be looking at the potentials and the opportunities that are hidden.
It is what I'm asking you.
Yes.
These hidden opportunities,
Yes.
that are not out yet.
Yes.
And this product that we don't have enough yet.
Yes.
What do we now export? Is it a crude?
We cannot be. How can a country like Nigeria be exporting crude? How can we be selling crude?
We export.
That is to tell you that
import.
That is to tell you that our economic advisors and policy makers are completely ignorant, or let me not say ignorant, or they have decided that they are not willing to pursue the process of ensuring local content. You cannot be selling crude and buying petroleum products. Remember that the jobs are actually the prosperity of the people.
Yes.
That's the reason why we sell all the crude and sell all our natural resources, and then the people don't have anything to go by. Because the jobs that comes out of processing is actually the prosperity of the people. That is the wages that are earned. Okay. Now, let me say this to you.
We're having a call.
Okay.
Although I placed the number there, you can call us to give us your input, your take about the topic today. Talking about the border closure and the African Continental Free Trade Area, how to reconcile it. So the numbers are displayed on the screen for you to reach us.
Now, what we should be doing is to be pursuing local content. See, let me say this. If I happen to be the president of Nigeria, there are so many entrepreneurs and industrialists already in Nigeria that are doing great with their own in their own capacity and with their own the resources they have access to. Okay. This sort of men needs to be encouraged. The government should be able to allow them access to funding, to encourage them to expand their operations, so that we are manufacturing more.
Okay, for instance, like rice.
Yes.
Rice production. You initially said that the government actually closed the border because of rice.
Yes.
And the smuggling out of probably PMS product. I mean, crude oil,
petroleum product, even petroleum products that we buy subsidized and all that. Yes.
People steal and smuggle out of the country.
Yes.
Now, are we rice sufficient now? I won't say food sufficient. We
cannot become rice sufficient as long as we are allowing the kind of smuggling of rice into Nigeria that we have had as a norm. Now, I was reading recently in this 1800s.
Okay, and sorry.
Yes.
And if we are not rice sufficient, don't you think before closing the border, you should make, like you said, that people should be encouraged? You said those who are business tycoons, who are investors in the country, yes, indigenous investors, yes, and everybody should be farmers. Everybody should go and farm, for instance.
Yes.
And if we are going to farm, how do we empower ourselves?
That's what I'm telling you.
To become productive rice. You know, we have enough rice before the border should be closed.
History. Go and look at history.
Okay.
Some time ago, the British government wanted to encourage local content when it comes to clothing. And India then was the world, they had actually, they were constantly, the import from India made it almost impossible for local content in clothing in Britain. What did they do? They banned the importation of clothes, of clothing materials. Okay. And what happened? That encouraged local content in that direction. But now let me say this to you. You cannot wait till you are self-sufficient before you begin to walk towards the path of self-sufficiency.
Okay.
And the only way you can walk towards the path of self-sufficiency is to ensure Nigerians can do without. Rice is not the only food that is available.
Okay.
Are you getting me?
Yeah.
And if rice becomes a reason why we will be losing forex and we will be losing our capacity to develop ourselves and to create jobs for our people, then we must take all steps, necessary steps. Though I do not subscribe to closure of the border, because I'm saying to you that closing our border is also a disadvantage, because it doesn't allow our own businessmen who are producing, who have product, to be able to take advantage of the African markets.
Okay.
So AFTA represents Africa taking responsibility to pursue local content. It actually encourages all African countries, because you see, look back, you see that Africa continues to import foreign goods. Not just Nigeria. It's not just the Nigeria. It's not just a situation that is limited to Nigeria alone. It is the same thing that is happening all over Africa. Okay. African nations keep importing and keep importing. But AFTA presents us with opportunity to trade amongst ourselves, because AFTA is about local content. I have always insisted, and I've always commented, and I've always suggested, and I've always made input saying that we must make sure that it is about made in African goods. If AFTA is not about made in African goods, then the purpose is defeated. Then Nigeria has a right to close its border. Okay. Because if Benin Republic will be importing rice from Taiwan and importing rice, if it was rice that was farmed in Benin Republic, and they are bringing it into Nigeria, that is the right of Benin Republic in signing to AFTA. Okay. But you cannot go and import rice from Taiwan and import rice from China or from somewhere, and then you will now be frauding Nigeria with it. And then you say that is the AFTA is in place. No, AFTA is not in place in that situation. Okay. Because the goods are not made in Africa. Okay. And if we allow AFTA to function right, as it ought to function, what happens is that each African nation will develop. Jobs will be created, we will prosper, and if Africa prospers, believe me, we will have enough money to trade amongst ourselves.
All right, thank you. After this short break, we will come back and I will deliberate more on the food security, unemployment, and so on as regard this border closure. Stay tuned.
The issue here we have to begin to look at is that at the time of independence, I don't know if there was a trajectory to where we are going to.
But how could it be that credible, free and fair under manual conduct of election?
That is where our problem lies, and that is why people are now seeing that, advising that we should move, that the world has gone into digital. We should move from the manual to the digital.
We cannot keep doing same thing and expecting a different result.
The only way you create jobs from your ministry is that you have to encourage local content.
If you look at the profile of Salimama,
there is a caveat in this leave given to him. He should seek medical help if he's fine.
Welcome to Spectacle on Television Nigeria. Welcome back. We are still on the topic AFTA and the border closure in Nigeria. How do we reconcile this? And the numbers to call are on your screen already. You can reach us and contribute your quota. And with me in the studio to analyze this is Reginald Nnabwe, an industrialist. Now, Reginald, with respect to job creation and local content producers, if they want to, people like, let's say, the people in Aba and the people in Kano State who are self-industrialists, entrepreneurs that are producing bags, shoes, lace, Ankara, and so on. How do they export these goods now to nearby countries, especially in the ECOWAS countries?
That is the point that we have been discussing. The opportunity that AFTA presents to our own producers is enormous. Like I said, Nigeria is a great market.
No, I say, how do they?
Yes.
How are they supposed to?
That's what I'm saying. That's why
now?
I'm coming to it.
Okay.
Nigeria is a great market,
Okay.
but Africa is a greater market.
Okay, yes.
Are you getting me? So it's a two-way thing. Now, like I said, you close the border. They close the border not only to import, but also to export. Now, so if you look at it, our own producers are actually losing out to the advantage and the opportunities of the greater market that Africa presents.
Okay.
Are you getting me?
Yeah.
Now, the problem with the incoming of illicit goods is our problem has to do with the people who are manning the borders. They are there doing their own thing. They are not there doing Nigerian thing.
Okay.
I believe very strongly that most of those persons who have been in the border for in the last 10 years, most of our customs and all those security personnel that have been placed at the borders, checks, all of them should be withdrawn back and brought back to the offices. And then a younger generation of youths who are just coming out of the university should be trained with a mentality of understanding that we have to actually stand for our nation. We have to make sure that if a car is coming into the country, it has to pay duty.
I think the day before yesterday,
Yes.
the Colonel Hamid, that is the custom boss, the Controller General of Customs, said they've realized about 5 billion naira from tax just within 1 month of this border closure.
No, it is daily. They have increased. If you have been following it, the daily income has increased to 5 above what they used to have. 5, sometimes 4.6 billion, 5 point something billion a day.
Daily. Not
weekly.
Not since.
No.
He said since when they closed.
No, sir. I
September.
actually, it's part of the thing I researched this morning. I actually made comments on that on Twitter.
Okay.
Daily, they have been increasing daily. So there was a day they made
legal tax.
Yes.
From people importing.
Yes, because of the closure of the border,
Okay.
Most of the shipments doesn't go to Benin anymore.
All
it
right.
comes to Tinker Island and it comes to Lagos. And there was a day they made 9 point something billion naira
Okay.
on imports, on duties, because of the closure of the border. But you see, that is because we are still import based.
Okay.
I believe very strongly that when we begin to pursue local content, what happens is that our borders and our ports will no longer just be about receiving. It should be about exporting.
And don't you like the way we are generating tax from the importation?
The tax you are generating from the imports is great. Are you getting me? But now, like I said, like we're talking about, we are looking at the potential of AFTA in regards to closure of border and the closure of border in regards to exports of our own products.
Yes.
Are you getting me? Now, the reason why we still see that closure of our border is an advantage is because we are the ones that are buying. We are not the ones that are selling.
Okay.
We should be about selling. We must make up our minds that we are the ones that are going to. We used to be this way. We used to be the ones that are exporting to Africa, not the ones that are receiving. We were not the dumping ground of the world initially.
Yeah.
Are you getting me? And we must go back to where we are coming from. And the only way we can do that is that we are going to pursue local content. And I keep saying, the time has come that we need to pursue what I call the rural industrialization urbanization plan, where machines marry local raw materials and local natural resources at the communities of source. It is very easy for us to move machines to Boko to produce orange juice instead of wasting our oranges and exporting our oranges. It is very easy for us to move machines to Kaduna, to Kafancha, to begin to process ginger
and whose duty? Whose duty is to do that?
Now, that is the point. The point is that our policy makers have not yet linked local content to the poverty of the people. The jobs are the prosperity of the people.
Yeah.
And until we begin to process locally and become exporters of byproduct, we will continue to shut our borders.
I ask you again.
Yes.
Whose onus is to provide these machines to the various, localities where these raw materials are?
The government. individuals, the private sector, all of us. In fact, majority of us don't even think that way. What we think is that it is easier to just buy the byproduct and they've already finished goods and become traders. The man who manufactures is king. The one who sells is not king. The one who manufactures decides the amount he sells it. He decides when he sells it. If it is just like Dangote, look at Dangote. Dangote can decide not to sell his cement to the entire Africa, and everybody will feel the heat because Dangote is manufacturing. Are you getting me? Now we need to all follow the path of Dangote and become industrialists in our mindset, and our governments need to begin to think that way. We must begin to manufacture. That is the only way. That's the only way we won't need to close our borders, because we will now have a situation where we are the ones that are exporting more than importing more.
All right. Thank you for coming on the show. I think this is where we'll stop for today. I was actually expecting a lawyer who will give us the background detail of this particular reconciliation. However, you've done justice to it. It's a pleasure having you today.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me, sir.
And that is where Spectacle will stop today on this particular issue of border closure and the African Continental Free Trade Area, the reconciliation. With me in the studio that have been with me analyzing this is Nabwe, Reginald Nabwe, an industrialist. Once again, I'm your host, Daniel Latai, and this is where we're going to stop for today. Thanks for watching. Welcome to Spectacle on Television Nigeria. I am your host, Daniel Latai.